All right, it's time for part 3. This is the final part of our question and answer series right here. And today I'm going to address some of the questions that we haven't gotten to yet, but I've saved the best for last. These are the questions that I get the majority of the time. And I will say that it is hot topics right now, things that people really want to know. But before we get to those questions, I just want to say thank you for checking out the channel. Make sure, if you're not already subscribed, to hit that subscribe button. It really helps this channel, and I just want to say thank you. So let's get into the top 3 questions that I get asked all the time. Number 1, when are interest rates coming down? This is a great question. Okay, everybody wants to know the answer. Here is something that you're not going to expect me to say. I have no idea. Let me expand on that. Let me tell you why we have no idea. Because the market shifts. Interest rates follow kind of the stock market sort of pattern. And when you're looking at interest rates, you really have to zoom out in order to understand where interest rates are going. And if we look over a 100-year period and look at the cycle that interest rates have gone on, it looks like a roller coaster. And what happens, they go up, they come down, they go up, they come down. And it's heavily influenced by what's happening in the government, what's happening in the economy, what is going on out there. Recently, we have been at the top. We have been on this up part of the chart, and they have started to trickle down. And with the trickling of down, we can kind of get excited because there is a little bit of relief right now at the time that I'm making this video. But here's the reality of the situation. If the economy does really well, if you start hearing that the economy is doing amazing, be prepared, the interest rates are going to go up. If you hear that we're going into a recession, if you hear that word, know that the interest rates could be coming down. So when the economy does bad, interest rates come down. When the economy does good, interest rates go up. You have to be careful though when you're watching the news, and I'm going to tell you why. Typically, the news outlets are delayed. They're behind. So by the time they're reporting that interest rates have come down, they might be down or they might have gone back up. So you just need to be aware that when you're paying attention to interest rates, it's so important that you check with somebody that is in the business every single day, watching rates every single day to see what they're doing. I will tell you though, here's a pro tip. Don't gamble against the house because the house always wins. If you chase a rate, typically you'll end up not getting that rate that you want. So my answer to the question of are interest rates coming down? In the short term, yes, they seem to be coming down. However, I don't know if we're going to see that crazy dip that everybody's waiting for. Just remember that if interest rates drop too fast, it's a bad thing, because then what's going to happen is there's going to be so much competition on homes that it's going to drive those home prices up, and it's really going to create a competitive market. I know you remember a couple years ago when there was lines around blocks waiting to view open houses. We don't want the interest rates to come down too fast, because then that kind of buying mayhem is going to be created again. So I do think they're on a downward trend, and I do think it's looking good. Just make sure that you're not paying attention necessarily to the news outlet. You want to follow a channel like this because we're going to keep everybody up to date on what's happening. All right, the second question I'm asked, and it's around the same thing. Are interest rates going to go back up? Well, I think I answered it, but here, let me say this again in a different way. Interest rates will go up and down daily, okay? They will change based off of news that is released in the government, in the economy. So, for example, let's say, you are quoted an interest rate by a loan officer on a Monday that seems really good, and you think to yourself, hey, I want to go shop that rate. I want to go compare different rates. If you wait till Wednesday to compare that rate, I promise you they're probably not going to look the same. Those rates will look different. So here's a pro tip on how you shop interest rate. Get a couple quotes from loan officers that you want to work with. The key there is want to work with, because rate is not the only thing that's important. If you have a great rate, but you miss your closing date, that's a bad thing and could almost put you in a very bad situation with being under contract for purchasing a house. You don't want to miss those closing dates and miss different contingency dates. So make sure you like the process. Make sure that everything's being explained to you. Make sure that it's transparent. When you're comparing those interest rates, make sure you're doing it at the same time on the same day. That is the pro tip on how you compare interest rates to know if they're going up or going down. You cannot compare an interest rate on a Monday and then compare an interest rate on a Friday. That is apples to oranges. That's not apples to apples. So just make sure that when you're comparing interest rates, you're doing it at the same time on the same day. But ultimately, here's my other piece of advice. Pick a loan officer that really makes you feel comfortable. They should be providing a transparent process through this whole thing. They should be able to help you navigate this journey, navigate this process, and make you feel so comfortable that you're not questioning anything. Interest rate is part of it. Interest rate isn't the whole thing. So make sure you are paying attention when you're shopping interest rates and you do it strategically. Now, the number one question that I'm asked all the time is, how much of my home can I afford? And today we're gonna do some simple math to help you understand what you can afford in a monthly mortgage payment. We're gonna show you how to calculate your front end and your back end ratio, or your front end goal and your back end goal. And why we do this is because it's going to give you a very good financial situation in order to afford a mortgage payment. So we get asked, how do I figure out my optimal mortgage payment? And today, instead of telling you, I want to be able to show you what that looks like. You need a couple things, but it's very simple and you can follow along. If you have a piece of paper and you have a calculator, go ahead and just grab it. For the sake of this scenario though, I'm going to use somebody who makes $60,000 a year. Now this is their gross annual income. So they make $60,000 a year annually before taxes are taken out. So how do you figure out your gross monthly income? That's step one. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your annual gross income and you're going to divide it by 12, which is going to equal $5,000 for this scenario. So your gross monthly income is going to be $5,000. Now we need to figure out, what is an optimal housing payment for you? Well, very simple calculation. You take your gross monthly income, which is $5,000, and you multiply it by 28%. Now, with that 28%, when you do that, you're going to calculate optimal housing payment, which for this example is going to be $1,400. What you want to look at with this $1,400 is you want to make sure that this includes your principal, your interest, your taxes, and insurance. You want to make sure that payment includes all of that. So your optimal total mortgage payment is $1,400. Next, hey, Daniel, you forgot about my credit cards, my student loans, my car payments. What is my total household payment I should aim for? Well, very simple. Take the same gross monthly income of $5,000 times 36% this time. So your optimal total housing income is $1,800. So this is your total payment. So with this simple calculation, you can see your optimal housing payment is $1,400 and your optimal total household debt is $1,800. This is a simple calculation to see what you can afford. Just remember that mortgage guidelines do allow for a little bit more. So if you really are interested, make sure you click the link in the description and we will schedule a strategy call so that you can truly see what you qualify for. If you want a more definite answer to what you can afford, just click the link in the description and schedule a one-on-one strategy call with me, and we can really dial in on what your finances look like. I hope these answer your questions on what to look for with interest rates in the economy, and then showing you how much of a house you can afford. If you haven't subscribed and you're still here, make sure you smash that button, because the next videos you're not gonna wanna miss.